Chuck's heavy gaze remains locked onto the Terran's face as they traverse the busy station. That bombastic display by the market still has her insides heaving mixed signals. Persistent ancestral instincts kick and squirm against a torrent of raw positive emotions. What are those emotions exactly? Well, Chuck can only answer that with yes at the moment. This Terran had not known her for more than a standard rotation, yet already treats her like close kin, as if they had known each other for years. Is this the notorious Terran pack bonding I've read so much about? She wonders excitedly. Her thoughts drift to their earlier conversations. Simone's clear discomfort when getting too much attention from most other people contradicts greatly with how she presented herself so blustering. Such a powerful creature, one with the ability to effortlessly crush her in this very moment if she so chooses, yet despite having such a capability, holds Chuck with deliberate delicateness. Terran muscle control must be ever so fine. How can anything dare be labelled Deathworlder if it's so proficient in such tenderness? Hey, sorry if I gave you a scare back there. Do you want to be put back down? Simone asks, avoiding eye contact with the more than likely frozen in fear Callie. Oh, yeah, you did a little. I think my legs are a little locked up at the moment though, so this is fine, Chuck says, mostly truthfully. Sorry, Simone's mouth mutters involuntarily. Chuck reaches up, poking the Terran under the chin. You proved your point. I'm incredibly lucky to have found you, Chuck chirps sincerely. But we can call it even after I drag you around this station, okay? Simone finally gathers enough courage to return the Callie stare. You bet, she softly agrees. Simone, without a hint of burden, carries the Callie down several lanes to the scattered distress of those around. Following the first park sign, she spots it leads to an impressive clear wall with a built-in archway. On the other side is a parflora exhibit of sorts, like a pleasant fabricated planet-side detour to another part of the station. Simone wouldn't necessarily call it a park, but then again, her Terran standards may be a bit ambitious. As she approaches the archway, a figure comes up from the side. Halt! Terran, halt! A demanding tone barks. Simone recognizes the species by the raspy, higher-pitched tone. She quickly turns, positioning her body between Chuck and the incoming Deathworlder. Turning her attention to face them, her recognition proves correct. A Thakmor, a 7-foot-tall, Ursidae-resembling species that walks on its two dense upper appendages and manipulates with their lower, whip-like graspers. Simone has seen many in her time, but only fought a select few. The Thakmor are one of the few Deathworlder species seen in a better light than the rest. They're an overall proud and noble people who have spearheaded incredible outreach programs for the other species across the galaxy. The only Deathworlder government with any respectable responsibility with their standing. Something Simone could admire, but the Thakmor culture was less altruistic from generosity and more from a sense of duty from their own brand of a superiority complex. Despite knowing all this and seeing the Thakmor in clear security garb, Simone takes no chances and keeps the Callie blocked. As he approaches and slows to a stop 10 feet away, Simone recalls the few hostile encounters and what she learned from them. Speed was her weapon here, but she couldn't be too rough while holding Chuck. Perhaps she could... Terrans, he agrees simply. We've been receiving a string of suspicious activity reports, ranging from kidnapping, abduction, assault, inducing panic and the like. I've been dispatched to determine the validity of these claims. If you would, please release the Callie so I may conduct unbiased interviews with both parties involved. His tone is polite, if not a bit on edge. Oh, I can assure you nothing nefarious is transpiring, officer. I'm here completely voluntarily, Chuck announces, peeking around Simone. Unfortunately, under the circumstances with the amount of reports, I can't take your word for it if the Terran is present. Now, please, separate by at least 10 paces. I will take each one of you aside and figure this all out, the Thakmor informs. I can't comply with that. This Callie is under my protection, officer, and the situation is too sensitive to let her out of my sight, Simone counters, unmoving. The Thagmore shifts on his legs, uncomfortably.
Is the Callie currently in mortal danger? If so, I would have reason to bring you both into station security custody, he informs.
Simone, it's okay. We shouldn't cause a scene with security. Let's just comply, Chak whispers. The Terran thinks for a solution, before shaking her head. With all due respect, officer, as her chief of security, the safety of Ms. Chak is my top priority, and I must extend the same caution you are giving me. Station security or not, I'm not leaving her alone with an unknown Deathworlder. A tense few moments pass before the Thagmore snickers their variant of a sigh.
Do you have official records confirming your employment position? He asks.
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. Simone, please put me down so I can present it? Chak chirps. Biting her cheek, Simone slowly lowers Chak's feet to the ground. I'm right here, she assures the Callie. As the Terran watches Chak trots closer to the Thagmore, her hand brushes up against her holstered weapon. Chak cheerfully pulls out a small datapad. She dabbles with the screen and lifts it up for the officer to see. The Thagmore gives it a good, careful read before nodding.
I see. Well, in interest to keep the peace between both parties, I find this acceptable. However, be warned, you will be monitored for the rest of your stay. Be safe, he says with a tired voice, and a final nod.
We understand, sir. Thank you. Chuck pleasantly farewells as she returns to Simone. Don't you think you were a little too cautious there? Absolutely, the Terran states, leaning closer to Jack. Be straight with me. These people that are after you, would they be above impersonating or bribing station security to get to you? The Callie's mood drops a deal. It wouldn't surprise me if they could, she responds in the affirmative. Then I'm going to be a little too cautious from time to time. Just doing my job, Simone says with a smirk. Understood, so does this change, you know? Chuck insinuates. Simone presents a hand. Nope, you still have a lot of dragging to do. Spear is lifting faster than FTL, and the Callie enthusiastically accepts her hand and leads through the park archway. Despite the potentially volatile disruption, their plans kick off without a hitch. The fabricated stonework of the path leads in a gently curving path to give the park an illusion of greater isolation and genuine wilderness. However, the not-so-distant parallel visual projection walls attempting to disguise themselves as blurred forested distances break any chance of tricking oneself. Not really buying into it, all the artificial junk, Simone finds herself unimpressed and admittedly bored. Though when she looks down to Chak, it's clear from the pep in her step and fascinated explorative eyes that the Callie is enjoying herself. Considering that's the whole point of being here, it's good enough for the Terran. So, you like nature, or parks specifically? Simone asks, breaking her standing silence. All the effort and technology required to bring a small piece of life to the vacuum of space for the sole purpose to remind station dwellers of a familiar connection that nearly every species shares. Home. Most of the flora here originates from completely different worlds, yet with just a little work, science and compromise, they all coexist in a balanced harmony. It's beautiful, Chak marvels. Look there and turn on your lens. Simone turns her head to the left where the Callie indicated. A fair-sized tree with reddish-orange leaves branching out above their heads. The bunches of outer branches gently sway from the artificial breeze. Ridging up, she taps on her lens and targets the massive plant. The park's botany collection archive pulls up and reveals the surface information as Northern Red Oak Tree, Origin, Terran Space, Origin World, Earth, Expired. Do you request more information? Uninterested in more, Simone taps off her lens. Simone hums in acknowledgement. Oh, does it not mean much to you? Chuck asks in surprise of the Terran's seeming dismissal. It's not that. Well, kinda, actually. I was a colony brat, never really associated home with cloned plants secluded on the terraformed high worlds that pretend they're the same as a long-dead rock. The smell of algae greenhouses, though, that takes me back. Simone ends with a finger gun and a sharp click sound behind smiling bared teeth. Did you just pretend to shoot me? Chuck chirps in a chuckle. Sorry, Terran thing, I guess. Simone shrugs with a smirk. I see. So, the Callie continues onward. What was it like growing up in a Terran colony? She asks, as the distant archway of the end of the park comes into view. Well, it was a joint colony. A backwater rock out in the Lonth system, mostly filled with Terrans and Milks. Not a lot of kids, but there was just enough to get a little league going, Simone answers, not used to this sort of questioning. A little league of what? Chuck inquires. It was an informal sports program, I guess. Mostly played Terran baseball and Mick Slogdisc. It's what the kids did while the folks worked. That was pretty much my whole childhood, Simone explains, as she rubs the back of her head. Chuck can feel the Terran's grip on her hand tightening ever so slightly. Oh, what did your parents do in the colony? This makes Simone look away. Mum wasn't in the picture. Left for military service after shitting me out and got herself killed somewhere. Never bothered looking into it. Now, Dad, I was everything to that man. Simone smiles in a shade of bitterness. The restricting grip on the Chuck's hand is beginning to grow incredibly uncomfortable. The Callie purses her mouth, not wanting to risk interrupting this moment. My dad was a physical trainer, specializing in maintaining body muscle in reduced gravity environments. The guy was soft-hearted and built like a truck. I wanted to be just like him. He got me into weightlifting, calisthenics, and boxing. It's like meditation for me at this point. That's the way he taught it to me. He was a big scary guy, but he couldn't hurt a zig. Any of the few good parts of me, that came from him. Simone's voice is now shallow and soft. To Chuck's tremendous relief, Simone releases her hand and steps away somberly, with her arms crossed. Before the Terran can notice, the Callie slips her hands into her pockets to look casual. He died when one of the pressurized atmosphere domes failed. Some sort of accident with a mining drone. They never told me specifics. I was in the middle of a baseball game at the time, Simone utters. Using the hand that wasn't currently throbbing in pain, Chuck confidently pets the Terran's shoulder. Oh, I'm so sorry, Simone, she whispers sincerely. Simone releases air slowly. After that, I had two choices. Stay at the colony as an orphan girl, trying to make myself useful, or accept an offer by a prestigious and opportunistic military academy. Apparently Mum was a big deal there at some point. Not wanting to see the daily looks of pity, I did the latter. Simone finishes before seeing clear discomfort in Chuck's eyes. Hey, you okay? Oh, sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you. Her hand starts to shift out of her pocket but settles back. I really need to use a lavatory, she lies. Simone's eye-head tufts raise. Well, geez, Bo Peep, don't risk soiling yourself on my account. Let's go track one down. Alone, the Callie hurries to the sanitation section of the lavatory and begins running warm water. Slowly, she finally takes out her hand from her pocket and inspects it. Relieved, she sighs heavily, seeing no bruising. Still hurting, however, she puts it under the running water and gently begins to massage it. It's okay. She was distracted, and there's no bruising. She won't find out. She doesn't need to know. Chuck internally reasons, not wanting to dare risk causing to create any rifts. She liked Simone, and these sort of things were bound to happen. Chuck just needed to be smarter about it, reduce the risks and hide the few times it does happen. What if Simone never approaches her again? What if she never has these talks with her again? This isn't Simone's fault. I could have said something sooner, something that won't make her feel guilty. She can't... No. The Callie's thoughts drift into disgust. Is she really considering this? Her eyes meet themselves in the mirror. She just blatantly lied to Simone, and just planned to lie to her even more. Lies are a festering rot, and building up from them only makes the hurt worse when the truth reveals itself. Chuck knew this lesson well. He taught it to her. I'm not like him, she softly tells the reflection. I'm not. Wasting no time in her resolve, she exits immediately, finding Simone leaning near the door. That was quick. Are you guys a small bladders, or you fire it like a pressure wash? Simone, I lied to you, Chuck blurts. The Terran stares, unprepared for this. Okay, she says, thinking back confused. About? While we were talking about your childhood, I should have said something, but I didn't because I wanted you to open up, and then I lied about needing the lavatory because I didn't want to upset you. Chuck's resolve starts to shake, desperately trying to think of a way to explain it without seemingly placing blame on Simone. The Terran is concerned and utterly lost in what the Callie is trying to say, until she only sees one hand hiding away in Chuck's pocket. Shit, what did I do? Simone quietly curses, getting down on her knee. It's not bad, I promise. I should have said something, Chuck repeats. Chuck, let me take a look at it, Simone assertively whispers. Finding nothing more to say that can save the situation, Chuck nods and presents the hand. The Terran, with more care than a feather falling through air, inspects the hand. Seeing nothing outwardly concerning, Simone carefully presses down, feeling nothing broken. Then, clasping both her hands around it like a protective barrier, she drops her forehead to it. Sweet solace overwhelms her. For fuck's sake, thank fuck, she whispers, repeatedly releasing gallons of air. After taking a moment, Simone looks up at Chuck with damp eyes. First, I'm so sorry. Second, I don't care if I'm telling you the code to defuse a goddamn nuke. Please tell me if this ever starts to happen again. Is that clear? Yes, I promise I will, Chuck nods. Alright, you okay? Simone asks as she stands back up. Oh, I shouldn't have pushed you. This whole exertion of mine has been absolutely terrible for you, and even though you warned me, I guilted you into it. We should just go back to order the rations and return to the ship. Simone glances back, seeing a distant security camera drone unapologetically staring the two down. No doubt the Thagmor's promise are being monitored. That may be for the best, she admits, before returning her gaze on the defeated Callie. But what do you say we stop by a place for a bite? You really wanted to try a restaurant here, right? Simone offers. No, thank you. I don't want to cause you any more problems today, Chuck says, looking at the ground. Somehow this was way worse than the adorable big eye trick. Simone leans down. Hey, look at me. After a moment, Chuck complies. You're right, you have caused me problems. You know what they are? Simone presents a pointer finger. You've made me feel like such a piece of shit with how nice you are. The Terran raises her middle finger to join the first. In under 24 hours, not only have you earned my respect, but I've told you things I've never told anybody. What in the actual fuck? Finally, she raises her ring finger. You're declining my offer for free food. In Terran culture, that is not only rude, but sacrilege, she jests. Chuck chirps a soft laugh. I wouldn't want to be rude. Atta girl. Simone opts to take a different route back after checking the station's guide with her lens. Then she pulls up a list of food joints along the way and sends it to Chuck. Oh, T-Rides has phenomenal reviews, and it has a high overlooking view of the market. Oh, never mind. It's far too expensive. How about Dog's Bun Factory? Jeez, I know I'm not swimming in credits, but I think I can afford one overpriced outing, Simone counters. I didn't mean... What if I pay for half? Look, I got 2,300 credits on me. If I buy some asinine bullshit 2 meals cost more than that, you can pitch in, alright? Simone? Yeah? I'm already looking at the menu and... Yeah, why me half? Already done. Suddenly regretting not going for dogs, Simone double-checks her credit count. It's then she notices several more security camera drones flying around. All seem to be following them. Well, that's a bit overkill, she internally grumbles in annoyance. Hopefully those things aren't permitted in the fancy fuck food palace. The two finally emerge to the market once again, and follow along the wall to an elevator lobby. Stepping in and pressing the T-Rice indicator, the Callie and Terran find themselves alone together. Music begins playing. I fucking hate that we invented that shit. Simone growls at the brain-dead tunes drilling into her mind. Thank you, Simone, Chuck says. Before the Terran can ask what for, a call comes in on her lens. It's Chucknuck.
Blast it! Miss Chuck, Simone, what is your current location?
The two share a look before Simone answers. By the market. We're on our way up to T-Rides. Want us to get you...
Simone, I will station security. They must speak with you. Giving them access to our network. Terran?
A familiar voice comes in, causing Simone to roll her eyes. What did I do now? Walk too aggressively? Cause a cardiac arrest because I sneezed?
Terran, you are being followed.
The Thakmor informs. Yeah, I saw. You sure those cameras don't have anything better to do?
No, not us. Those cameras are trying to keep track of several unknown pursuers. We know they are following you. They have kept their distance, but have been on your tail since our encounter.
Chuck's body begins to tremble, but a steady Terran hand rests on his shoulder. I copy. Miss Chuck and I are on the elevator going up to T-Rides. Simone's tone is bold and steady.
Acknowledged. We have already sent an alert to evacuate the premises. There will be an emergency hatch on the viewing window floor. We are sending a shuttle to pick you up from there.
Copy. Do we have a head count on how many there are or what species?
At least 3. But we can't be certain if there's more. They're professionals. Full-body scramblers, and they have evaded our foot patrols.
The elevator jolts to an abrupt stop, and the light dims. Simone immediately turns her attention to the Cali. Unless I say otherwise, stay close to me, alright? Of course. Looks like they cut power to the elevators. We're going to climb up the shaft the rest of the way. Simone informs security.
Acknowledged. We've lost all visuals on them. Hurry.
As if summoned by an asshole of a fate deity, a loud vibrating thump rattles the bottom of the elevator. Shit! Simone curses, looking out for any sort of maintenance hatch. Simone, the floor! Chuck shouts, pointing down. The two watch as a sizable drill penetrates the elevator, before sinking away and being replaced by a tube. It begins to hiss, and blows fumes into the cramped space. Simone quickly returns to looking for a ceiling hatch, finding a nearly invisible seam for it. She thrusts a hand up, pushing, but it doesn't budge. You need a facilities worker key to get... Chuck begins to explain, before Simone clutches her fist and repeatedly begins bashing. At the 5th devastating blow, the meager hatch lock snaps, causing the door to reel back violently. Consider me facilities. Now come on, get on my back. Simone crouches down. Without question, Chuck quickly wraps her arms around the Terran's neck, lower limbs under her arms, and legs locked tightly on her hips. Once in place, Simone hops up, and clambers to the elevator roof and dashes the inlaid ladder as soon as her eyes catch it. Rather than a climb up, it is more of a mad dash of upward leaps and hops. When they reach 20 feet up, a green gasoline-esque explosion erupts from the elevator. Who the fuck did you piss off? Simone grunts as she continues upward. My father. Simone hesitates for a moment before shaking it off. I can only imagine the awkward family reunions. Chuck is surprised that Simone's willing to make a joke in their current situation, but then again, maybe it's another Terran thing. After ascending 2 floors, they make it to the projected set of restaurant elevator doors. Hold on tight, Simone warns, as she steps away from the ladder to step on the narrow, perilous ledge. Chuck can't help but to look down, eyes widening at the sight of a creature climbing through the elevator hatch in hot pursuit. They're coming! The Cali chirps in panic. Simone plants her fingers in the door crease, first digging in her nails to get a grip. Then, with a mighty heave, the doors pull apart enough to slip the two through. The thankfully evacuated restaurant is empty, still bearing fresh and half-eaten dishes scattered along tables that sit on a completely clear floor. Far below is the market where station security officers are attempting to direct crowds away from the area. Officer, we're in the restaurant. Where's the shuttle?
Still inbound. Under a minute,
the Thakmor assures. Chuck, look around for the floor hatch. I'm going to make sure... Simone's is interrupted by the sound of prime pulse rifles. Sweeping her leg, she catches a table. Knocking it over, she ducks, bringing the Cali with her. Food flies as weapons unleash hell. The mercifully solid metal table takes the onslaught to a concussive blast like a champ. Not hesitating this time, Simone unholsters her plasma colt and waits for an opening. These guys are not fooling around, so neither will she. Stay down and keep talking to security, okay? Simone orders. The Cali releases her death grip on the Terran and nods. Simone, she utters, closing her eyes. They won't get to you, the Terran assures. Chuck shakes her head. Make them stop. Her words shaking, filled with fear and fury. Then her eyes open, glowing red more intensely than ever. Staring into the Terran's soul with something burning brighter than 1,000 suns. Had them back, she seethes. Simone's expression softens, but she clicks her plasma colt to its maximum setting. Yes, ma'am. With that, the Terran kicks off and rolls left at incredible speed. A few pulse shots skim by, but can't keep up with the Terran's agility. Stopping behind a structural pillar, she stands straight with a focused breath. Twisting around the pillar, she charges out, pulling the trigger at the fuckers. 3 identical assassins stood together with their pulse rifles drawn. They are all clad in black body armor suits, faces covered with visor masks. From their thin frames and sharp body angles, Simone recognizes the species as a Zatok, a reptilian avian mishmash. Her people refer to them as dinos on the field of battle. Not just for their looks, but these particular Deathworlders have a savage reputation with battlefield conduct. But Deathworlder or no, the green flashing orb fire from Simone's sidearm bores through the first armor. Feathers, scales, flesh, bones and organs just the same. The poor bastard clutches at the cauterized crater and silently screams as it falls. The remaining 2 drop their rifles as the Terran closes in and meets her head-on with extending claw blades. Simone smirks. Predictable dino fucks. The Terran abruptly dives sideways mid-run. As she slices on the ground, the Terran takes aim, throwing another orb of death. It strikes true right in the face of the second, leaving nothing behind but a scorched neck and a blackened mark on the back wall. The corpse drops to the ground, twitching. The final assassin stops and looks to Simone through the visor. It slowly raises his hands in surrender. Plasma Cole still steadily trained on the creature, Simone stands up. On your fucking knees, she demands. You're on the wrong side, Terran. Have you any idea what the payoff for that Kali even is? It hisses through his mask. Must have missed the memo. Knees, now. The Zatok slowly lowers itself and places its hands on the top of their head. Not a lot of information about you. Just some small-time bounty hunter from Terran trash. What's the term? Oh yes, the irony, it muses. Tusk, did the homework but still failed the exam. How sad, but hey, I'm not unreasonable. How about some extra credit for a passing score? How many more of you are there? The Terran interrogates while keeping her distance. The creature hisses in amusement. Oh, you fool. You stupid fool. Were the credits backing this mission? More than you can count. You can kill me now, but there are thousands more on the payroll. It's only a matter of time before someone claims the ultimate prize. Simone opens her mouth, but a sudden strike from behind whips her sideways. The pole shot impacts her shoulder, causing the jolt to viscerally dislocate, her plasma colt flying off from her grip. The kneeling Zatok takes this moment to spring forward, extending his blades. The blades pierce skin and dig an inch deep before Simone can take hold of the attacker's arm to keep it at bay. As the assassin brings down the other bladed hand towards the Terran, she kicks with all her might at the center mass. Ribs crack and cave inward before the Zatok is launched back. Slamming into the wall, the creature vomits blood in its mask and begins to unsuccessfully gasp for air. Gritting her teeth, Simone looks back to see 3 new contenders standing at the elevator doors. 2 Zatoks on either side of a completely different species, one that Simone didn't recognize. The crustacean beefcake easily stands 10 feet tall, on sharp, quad crab-like legs. Coming out from the back and sides are 2 pairs of double-jointed appendages, ending with long scorpion pincer claws. The torso shape itself is narrower at the waist, and only broadens from there in an upside-down triangular fashion. The face is built right in the center mass, with 6 beady black eyes and flush mouth plates. The unknown creature raises a claw in front of one of the Zatok, taking aim at Simone. Go aid your kin down the stairway, and keep the security forces at bay. This Terran has earned the right to an honorable death. It speaks in such a harsh and guttural manner that it sounds painful to simply vocalize. The loyal minions dash together to the right and disappear towards the emergency stairs. Simone grunts in pain as she pulls herself up into a standing position. After shooting me in the back? Oh, how fucking kind of you, she snaps, clutching her dislocated arm.
A pity indeed. I've heard many stories of Terran's prowess. It's a shame to not face my first in their prime.
Oh, bitch, you haven't seen Prime yet. Then, disregarding her arm, she reaches down and pulls out her boot knife. A short, barbed 2-inch blade with a thick-ass handle.
Your bravado is nothing without action, but perhaps you will prove your species to be useful to my clutch sisters. What is your name, Terran? Die well, and I will carry your legacy across the stars.
The oversized crab bitch begins marching forward. Simone backs up over the clear floor. She eyes Chak, who is now wielding the plasma colt. From her expression, the terror can tell that Callie was amping herself up. Simone locks eyes with her, and subtly shakes her head, begging her for absolute trust in this moment. Hoping that to be enough, Simone returns her undivided attention to the new player. No exposed joints, inches of thick, overlapping chitin, and spear-like goring pincers. The name's Fuckface McGee. Now come at me, you buttless bitch, Simone declares, holding the pitiful blade as though it is Excalibur itself.
May your death be hard fought!
The creature stampedes forward like a thunderous bulldozer. Adrenaline pulses, and time seems to slow down for Simone when the challenger raises a pincer to strike over his head. The plates over his waist shift in the overextending stance. There! Risking it all, Simone pulls a pin out from the knife's handle and crouches forward into the creature. Before her window closes, she jabs the barbed blade up under the plates, finding purchase in soft flesh. Then, as time normalizes, she crosses past and snaps up Chak with the most care one can have in this urgent circumstance. As the terror makes distance, the creature curiously pokes at the pathetic weapon before it finally explodes in a concentrated shockwave. The creature falls forward, almost completely bisected, floor cracking around it.
You dishonorable cheat! You dare deny me honor!
Its pained voice screeches. Holding the Callie tenderly, Simone looks back. Yeah. Terran Hail Marys are a bitch, aren't they? The floor crackles and pops as more spiderwebs collect.
Curse you! Curse you, fuckface!
The floor finally gives way, taking the crab with it. The creature plummets several hundred feet before smashing into the ground, now lifeless. Simone walks the two closer to the edge to see his fate. Rest in Red Lobster, Simone mutters, knowing she earned it. Where the fuck is that shuttle? It had to pull away when the gunman got involved, but Simone... Chuck tightly wraps every arm around the Terran and begins to huff and cry. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, by the stars, thank you. Simone winces a little from the gut wounds and torn muscles in her shoulder tense up. You bet. A hover shuttle begins its approach as footsteps clatter from the stairway. Fuck, forgot about them.
Terran!
A Thakbor's voice calls out with the steps. Releasing a relieved breath, Simone turns around to see the officers stomp in, to stop and look around at the corpses and carnage. His own uniform is scuffed up and has feet drenched in Zartuk shades of blood. Other officers begin pouring in after him to secure the entirety of the restaurant.
What by the stars happened up here?
He asked. Just, having a hell of a first day, sir. Simone sits in the station security medical ward, with her right arm in a sling and gut bandaged. She gave the medical staff a good scare, showing off all the other scars that the new ones are joining. Despite the request by security and medical staff, Chuck refuses to leave the Terran's side. Other than a little shock and earring, the Callie is deemed unharmed from the encounter. They sit in a room together alone, waiting for the investigative process to play out. The guarded door opens and a refreshed Thakmor saunters in.
You've been cleared to leave,
he announces. Both Callie and Terran are surprised to hear such a thing. Seriously? Simone asks.
We found no reason to hold you or press charges. The individuals after you were identified as a known terrorist group called Fudak's Claw. They are a fairly new upstart and are known to hunt Deathworlders, he explains. But they weren't after me. One of them told me as much,
Simone counters. The Thagmore shrugs.
Perhaps they had reasons to hunt you both. Oh, in which case...
A whip arm reaches back and pulls out Simone's plasma Colt grip forward.
You're going to need this back.
Simone is confused but grateful as she accepts and holsters it. Thanks. Sorry. Never call your name? The Thagmore chuckles and reaches out a whip.
Joe. Chief Officer Joe Shaklorakthax.
Simone shakes the whip appreciatively. Thanks, Joe.
You're always welcome here in Kamoy. Just keep future visits less collateral damaging. Speaking of which, check the net. You made the news.
With that, Joe leaves the two alone once again. Curious, Simone turns on the net, and sure enough, the top story on the station was unsurprisingly the talk of the town. But a specific report titled Terran and the Cali Runway catches her eye. Oh, hey, there we are. Simone sends the report to Chuck so they can watch together. The report starts with footage from a bystander down in the market. He mutters something about security being inconsiderate before a distant explosion sound draws the aim of his recording lens up at the overlooking restaurant with a shattering floor. Then he tracks a falling crab individual plummet and hit the ground. The corpse is peppered by shards of the raining floor. Several calls of distress ring out. The cameraman curses in his people's tongue before looking back up at the hole and zooming in. Over the ledge appears a Terran holding a Cali with a single arm. The screen freezes as the commentators finally speak up. Of course. Why is that when Deathworlders go at each other, a Terran is always involved? Phelan, this is only the second reported case involving a Terran on Kamoy. Whatever, that's not what's important. See the Cali in that brute's arms? Yes? Well, I'm not a speciesist or anything, but considering how hard it is to tell them apart, that Cali looks just like the runaway Cali princess. Right? Phelan, that was incredibly speciesist. No, hear me out. That royalty coup shit happening on the Cali homeworld, out of like 200 and something children of the last queen, the runaway is like the last one. Have you been on the Cali Newsnet? To avoid diplomatic incidences, the current king has put a hefty bounty on her head. Tell me I'm crazy, but this all could have been an assassination attempt. You're crazy, Phelan. Looking at it now, I'm getting thousands of reported sightings across the galaxy in the past hour alone. Seems like glogs like you think they can see the runaway princess everywhere. I can't believe you call me and many of our dear viewers a glog. Very insensitive of you, TB. Why, by the glory of our stars, do I still work here? Of course you bring religion into this. Simone turns off her lens, takes a deep breath, and silently stands up. Chuck reaches up for her, but backs down from the shame. Simone walks to the doors. Pushing one open, she stops and turns her head around. The hell are you pouting about? You heard Joe say we're free to go, right? Chuck looks up wide-eyed. Wait, you? She chirps softly. Come on, Bo Peep, I'm stupid, but not that stupid. The naivety, the mysterious abundance of credits, the looks, and the retrofitted luxury yacht? I figured you were some kind of big hotshot. Now get your ass moving. I need a fucking nap.